All right, folks. Give me just a second while I set up the Freedom Forum, because apparently always got to do that fun stuff while the stream is going. Otherwise, it doesn't work out. And there's the convention for you. I'll be right back with the opening of the Freedom Forum. You'll give me just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Freedom Forum. I am your host, Yo Guardsman, and we are here to celebrate some stupidity at its finest. Oh, so sit back right here, chill, have a beer, and y'all know the drill. Beer 45, as it were. I had two while I was sitting there watching Shad's stream, and I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to kick back, relax, and laugh at these people because, yeah. Uh, so what? It's a freaking solar eclipse. They happen once every 10 to 11 years. You will see anywhere between, wherever you live, mind you, between 8 and 10 of these over your lifetime. There is no reason to panic, folks. Chill. It's just a fucking eclipse. Why are you scared of a shadow? I will never know. By the way, skull, y'all. Ah, thank you, Shad. I appreciate it. I tried to imaginate something and I was like, well, that just come right off the cuff. Like, and I'm just like, because you know how I do my videos. It's just like spur of the moment. Ah, fuck it, I'm gonna do this, or fuck it, I'm gonna do that. And a lot of the time, I'll put it here on the YouTubes for folks to see. Sometimes it's just, I just do it. But yeah, there you go. That's literally what it were. It just off the cuff. I was sitting there watching your stream, and I was like, well, I'm gonna run a Freedom Forum just because I know this Shad. You know what? It's Sunday. There's other folks in the world besides, and live in other places. So I says, well, There you go. And there's a lot of folks that don't even know what the hell's going on, and so I'm gonna fill you in with a little bit more of the astrophysical and cosmological approach and understanding where the astrophysics of it actually play a big deal. So stay tuned because I'm gonna wander through this particular quagmire of insanity and stupidity, and I hope y'all along for the ride. Anthony Crouch. That sounds like a Harry Potter name. If you know the reference, you know the reference. Well done. By the by, all are welcome here. Just don't act an ass and you will be all right. There is only two rules to the Freedom Forum. That is no bullies whatsoever and no porn. We can't have it because it'll shut down the Freedom Forum. That's the only things everything else may go. Talk what you will. Talk all the shit you want. Have a beer. Chill. Is a great place to be. So, and Shad, you know everybody. So I'm gonna point out, you know everybody. Some of the folks that are on your channel, they would find my channel to be a bit abrasive or a bit disloyal, and so to each their own. That's why I'm saying, Anthony, you're welcome, and by all means, do hang out in the chat. Nobody is allowed to go and take you down unless you go and act a complete ass of yourself. In which case, you'll meet the wrenches in the chat. There's a lot of them. There, of course, Mad Shad, who apparently knows you, but also my cousin here, Song of the South. How you doing, cuz? Good to see. And we're all sitting here just relaxing, having a beer, having a good old time, thinking about these Egypts that do not understand what an eclipse is. So I'm gonna walk you through an eclipse, and let's just shed some light on the subject because it's a shadowy thing. Okay, so the way that an eclipse works is you have a source of light, and then you have, say, a body of darkness that passes in front of said light. Now you can see this shadow on my chest. Imagine that the moon, okay, is moving. The sun's out here. You can't see it, but you can see the light from it. And my chest is the earth. And you're one little speck of dust on that. And that moon moves across and makes a shadow. And that is what an eclipse is. Okay? So for those of you who have not lived long enough in order to understand what an eclipse is, there's your sign. It is simply a celestial body moving in front of our stellar light source, the sun. Okay? Nothing to be afraid of. No terror here. It's not a rock falling from space. We're all good. Okay? And the reason why it's actually transiting from south to north along a easterly transit is because of where the sun is in relation to the moon. So you can see that the light source is right up there. And you can see as I transit my hand this way, the light source itself transits faster across my body. Now, if I transit the opposite direction, it moves faster across that particular plane. Isn't that interesting? And it's the same thing in space. And the reason for the way that our moon transits across the planet, and this has to do with refraction, mind you, is that as the moon moves in front of the planet, it sweeps this circular, basically circular or ellipsoid shape of shade across the planet in a line that transitions in a differential to the source of light. So if it's over here, that shadow is going to project over here. If it's in between, that shadow is going to project straight. If that point of obstruction is over here, it's going to project that shadow in that direction. And that's how this works. It's literally physics. There's nothing special involved. Okay, this is just how light is going and projecting across a path. It's not going to hurt you. You don't need to be terrified. Hey, look, it's just a fucking shadow. You project one every time you walk outside in the sun. So, sometimes if you're walking around at night, you actually project 5 or 6 of them, depending on how many street lights are around you. So there you go. It's just a shadow. Those of y'all that are scared of your own fucking shadow, have a seat in the back. We'll get to you in the midst. But for the rest of y'all who are caught up on this, let's delve a little bit more into the electromagnetic science of it. Because to me, that's the most interesting. And like Anna says, if you ain't got a beer, have one, because you're going to need one to keep up. Trust me, at least one, if not 5. I'm a lightweight, so me at 3 is like. But anyways, I digress. So unfurling the third sheet here. Basically, where along those lines that the moon lines up, it's going to create a magnetic flux of its own, which in turn is going to act like a wedge. So in those zones where you see the shadow, it's going to have zero effect. Okay. Or as close to zero effect in the magnetic spectrum, in magnetic sensory, as you could relatively imagine in the sense of the star and planet aligned. But the moon is also going to have this kind of wedging effect because it has its own magnetosphere. It's very slight, but it acts kind of like the tip of the spear almost. When the tip of a spear goes into flesh, it pushes things out of the way as much as it cuts. The same kind of aspect works with the electromagnetosphere of the moon in front of the electromagnetosphere of the planet. So we've got our own planet's electromagnetosphere. It's already buffering the solar waves coming in. And then these solar waves hit this extra body there of electromagnetics, and it kind of sheds those waves. And those waves shed other waves and push everything further out. So it creates a wedging effect. The physics involved with this is insane, but at the same time, it's really cool when you think about it. Basically, we're getting less solar influx than we would normally, both across the visible spectrum, but across other spectrums of light, okay? coming in at our planet, and also these other particulates coming in at our planet from the solar wind. And so I would love to see the measurement data on this. This is one of those things I personally would like to be really involved in and look at and see what it is. Because, hey, dude, it's fascinating as fuck to me to understand, the way that the sun's particles that it's blasting off in all fucking directions literally miss the planet in some respects. In other respects, they kind of hit the planet, but they're really hitting our ionosphere and our upper atmosphere, things like that. It really amazes me. And so other people, they might lose their minds at the amount of numbers and physics involved, but when you know how to crunch numbers in your head, it becomes a lot easier. So that's why I was like, I really would like to see all the data on this stuff and, understand really what it is. But beyond the electromagnetic spectrum of it, and the way it affects the human biome and stuff like that, I'm not really concerned with what the eclipse does, because the reality of it is it's just a rock moving in front of our star. It's not like it can do a whole lot. It's going to affect tides a smidge. It's going to affect electromagnetic resonance within your personal biome. Okay, that basically how your body responds to the electromagnetic fields around you. And that's it. I mean, it can fuck with your mind a little bit if you let it, but you got to not let it. It's a whole mind over matter situation with that. And I always have preached a healthy respect of mind over matter when it comes to situations where your brain starts running and your doing starts stopping. Anyways, when it comes down to this particular aspect of the electromagnetics and how they resonate and how they affect not just regional populace, but life itself. And on top of that, the way that the planet itself reacts to, different stimuli of electromagnetics over that particular area. Because you got to remember, the moon's been moving past this area for the whole freaking time. It's just not moved in the right spot to make a shadow right there. Okay? So I've been watching everything that happens in the area. Fuck everything. Down to the Madrid fault, down to, different earthquakes up in New York. I'm looking at all of it and saying, okay, this is how this is affecting our planet. So, this is why I'm really interested in all this shit, because I can turn around and kind of, I want to emphasize this, kind of forecast what might happen in the future, depending on what happens with our star, depending on what happens with, other things, other aspects of, relative physics in how our moon affects our planet. Now I can do that. I can't say, okay, well, this is going to make Johnny fucking nuts as butters when, the eclipse happens, just because he freaks out. He doesn't fucking understand. Hey, it's just an electromagnetic wavelength that just passed over your body. And because you don't have any metal in your body, you can't physically feel it. So instead, your brain is compensating for the wavelengths that it's still kind of understanding what's happening, but it doesn't really understand what's happening, to try and compensate for that. Whereas, people like me who have metal in our fucking bodies, we feel it. We feel the effects as the different field lines pass across our bodies. We feel the effects. It happens. And it trips me the fuck out every time. I can fucking walk in front of a microwave or somebody talking on their cell phone and just, oh, fuck, it just makes my jaw rattle because I have titanium and stainless steel in my jaw. And according to what metal is in you, you might feel it more than, physically speaking, than other people feel it. Like, for instance, steel. Steel has more iron in it. You know what I'm saying? So you're more susceptible to feeling things that are electromagnetic. You have to understand, there's more to a physical handicap or disability than meets the eye. I mean, you see me in normal everyday circumstances, you think, oh yeah, he's just a fucking normal average Joe, just, doing what he can, or, he might be a little bit off his rocker, but whatever. You don't realize that a lot of it's affected by the fucking titanium in my jaw. A lot of it is. Okay, so on to what Kentucky's saying here. Kentucky Dipman here is saying, could solar eclipse cause an epileptic seizure? It depends on your level of anemia and your level of iron intake thereof. Because anemia can be more than just an iron intake deficiency. It could be magnesium, all sorts of different things. If you're perfectly balanced in your minerals and vitamin supplements and whatnot, or not supplements, your vitamin and mineral intake as you should, then you're going to be less susceptible to things like the flux. You're still going to, at some aspect of your physical being, you're still going to feel it, but it's not going to be so strong because, say, iron, when you have too much of it in your blood, can cause, because it'll start to create filings in certain soft tissues like your brain, which can cause, say, things like seizures or stress seizures if you have those. So it depends on your particular intake of vitamins and minerals, but on the whole, as long as your dietary health is healthy, your probiotic health is healthy, and your immunal health is healthy, your brain function is going to be able to compensate. It's not entirely saying that, if you use pharmaceutical drugs that they can't help in that aspect. Okay, in that aspect, I have to take a step back because I don't have epilepsy. I have stress-induced seizure after aggressive psychotic episode. So what it is that, it'll flip a switch in my brain and all of a sudden I just become a fucking animal and a killing machine. And then afterwards I pass the fuck out. Now I've detailed this in a little more gory detail in my books, but it's actually a real thing that does happen, and it's mostly due to me getting fucking tapped in the back of the head with a good solid punch, rather than like just me going psychotic or some shit. It doesn't work like that. It's literally a fight or flight response. So it's not so much as I'm crazy just out the gate. You actually have to hurt me in order for me to just fucking suddenly flip a switch and then I'm on. A lot of soldiers would actually call that post-battle awareness. And personally, I just call it, my physiology and the person I am. Okay, Long as you don't hit me, I'm the nicest fucking motherfucker in the world. I'll turn around and walk away from a fight. But you throw a punch at me, it's on. You start slinging bullets in my general direction, I'm gonna put you down. And I'm not trying to be Mr. I'm just pointing out that that's who I am. So when I relate it to this, I can't say, well, this is going to be more effective or less effective according to your seizures, depending on, because I don't have personal experience in it. I do understand the science behind it and where it affects you in your brain. So I can kind of understand how different ways that your dietary intake, your physiology might create a more opportune situation for that to happen. But I can't say that it's going to outright do it. Okay, it's a matter of probabilities in that aspect. You might be fine. I don't fucking know. At the same time, you might have a multitude of episodes and it's all just due to something that happened that wasn't quite right with how, whatever you're dealing with at that time. Okay. So nothing against that. Kentucky, come on up here, brother. Yes, sir. Give me just a second while I do this. My computer wants to be a pain in the ass. All right. There you are, brother.
How are you?
Howdy do. So I tried to explain before you came up, how that might affect you,
Yeah, I think
but
mine may be stress related, like you said. My stepdaddy said it seems like mine is like rapidly firing a gun and then it backfires on you.
all right, like I says, when it comes down to the way that electromagnetics might affect you, it's more to do with the internals of your body at that time, dealing with the specific region of your brain where that is at, where it might stimulate that, because you're already prone to it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that outright it might cause one. I'm just saying that there's a possibility to a probability that you may experience more episodes during that time than otherwise because of the flux. Okay, the magnetic flux itself, not because of anything you did wrong. All right, so like if you have a high iron intake but you don't have a high uh what was it, the acid that's it's a high chlorate intake, like sodium chloride, sodium chlorate, like that's basically salt. If you don't have a high salt intake, but you have a high iron intake, maybe that could cause some problems there. I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying that it could.
But here's the weird
Okay?
thing. I crave salt, but I have high blood pressure.
Same here. Now, what I will say is that my salt cravings tend to lean more towards between potassium and sodium versus like I've met some folks who either have anemia or have on top of their anemia, they're very sensitive to iron intake, and they crave salt like you can't believe. And I just talk about, well, it's the chlorate intake that comes with that salt that you're wanting. It's not necessarily the sodium or the potassium. Okay. And your body will exude that so long as it's getting what it wants.
Mm-hmm.
And balancing that tends to help your body handle what is coming and what you're dealing with. Okay. At the best of its abilities. I'm not saying that it's going to be 100% perfect. All right. I've had friends who had epilepsy, like right there, and had episodes right in front of me. And One dude I knew, he passed out hard. It just had an epileptic seizure right there in the chow hall, and he passed out hard and hit his head on the fucking table and split it all over the place. And I'm just sitting there trying to get him through his seizure, and then keep my hand on his head so he doesn't bleed out or nothing. Because it's a lot of blood. I don't know at the time, mind you. Now I know. Now I know that that's not, it's not a big deal of a bleed. It's just a matter of, you know, keep him on his left side, let him go through his seizure, let him relax, and then everything will be all right. I didn't know that at the time, but I saw him through his seizure because I knew, hey, keep him on his left side and whatnot. But I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of blood. And now I'm like, oh, well, right here where he caught the edge of the table, there's an artery that run, or not an artery, but a vein that
Yeah.
runs right across here. And if you cut that vein, it will bleed like you cannot believe. And it's not necessarily impacting to the brain or impacting to the skull. It's just enough to cut it is enough to cause that bleed.
Yeah, I know you got a bunch of main veins in the head. I knew that.
Yeah. So it spooked the shit out of me. So I was, like, you need to call 9, this, that, the other, because I was all up, about, but I didn't realize it wasn't as bad as it seemed.
While we're talking about bleeding from like your head and stuff like that, just imagine being in the rural South back in the 30s for them to take somebody to the hospital. They
Right.
thought my granddaddy had internal bleeding because his younger brother thought it was a smart idea to start throwing rocks at birds thinking he could hit one to kill it without a slingshot.
Whoops. Well, all I know is after not only that particular episode, but also my dad fell from a ladder that he stuck on top of a scaffolding, which, mind you, by this time, this man was drunk all the time and could not be reasoned with. So there was no way that you could talk to him. All right. He was in his 60s. He was on his last legs and he was like, fuck the world. I'm getting off of this motherfucker one way or another, and you're not stopping me. So, you could not stop him from doing this shit. He literally stuck a ladder on top of a roll scaffolding with caster wheels on the bottom of it to go and paint the side of a house. Like I said, this man was on a death trip. He wanted death. He wanted for it, and I knew it, and I couldn't stop him. All right. But I found out from his little mishap from falling there that if the impact is sufficient, then it can cause a bleed internally. That's
Yeah,
the
I know
problem. That's
somebody.
the one that's the dangerous one. But it has to be a sufficient impact.
I know somebody that got down to just a pint of blood and refused to take blood,
Damn.
but he survived it.
That's more than I did. I needed to get a transfusion of a liter of blood because, 3
Oh, they
pints.
kept on telling him he needed the transfusion or he'd die, but he didn't.
I needed 3 pint of transfusion, because I had a problem, and they luckily enough, because they didn't know what my blood type was, they used the O negative, the O neg RH positives one that would have actually been what was necessary to save my life, just on a fucking complete lark of luck. They used the right blood type for me, and they did a proper transfusion of a liter of blood after they freaking got all the blood that I bled internally run through an oxygenator and gone through a dialysis and back into my veins. This is back when I got stabbed, mind you.
I'll tell you
Well,
another
I'm
story I've heard
surprised to
that's
be alive
crazy
today.
too. This was about somebody in my family. They said he couldn't sit up, that he'd sit like this after he had a stroke. But after they'd give him his chewing tobacco, he'd sit up straight and start talking plainer.
Well, what do you know? See, that might have something to do with the effects that nicotine has on the body. Now, when you have an aneurysm, all right, I want to walk you through this.
An
When you have an
aneurysm.
right, that's exactly what a stroke is, all right. When you have an aneurysm, it pops a blood vessel in your brain inside the thinking parts, all right, and it pushes blood into that and creates pressure on a wall against the brain tissue that's there, basically pushing apart the neurons which are connected together, and this is what causes that stroke on the side of it. Now, when you take nicotine into your system, it shrinks down your blood vessels. Okay. What do you know of, by the by, that helps with a stroke victim that they already put you on, but also causes your blood vessels to dilate, which means they get bigger?
Actually, I don't even know the answer.
All right. Well, it'd be either one of several different what's called statins, and they are for making it so that your blood gets thinned out. All right, and it also dilates your veins. Well, the good thing about it is it thins out your blood, makes it so that the blood can get out of the clot in your brain. But on the flip side of it, there's so much pressure still because your veins are so dilated that it's still pushing blood in, which causes the separation to stay there, and it causes the effect to continue. Whereas if you take in nicotine, it causes your blood vessels to constrict, and that constriction of your blood vessels causes it so there's less blood flow and less blood pressure, pulling away at the same time because it's thinned out, the blood clot can thin out, pull away from your brain. At the same time, there's not so much pressure going into the wound, allowing healing to take a faster pace.
Well, that leads me into another question. There's two types of hardening of the arteries, right?
Yes, sir.
There's one that's more deadlier.
I believe there's one. There's two. No, wait. I take that back. There is more than two types of artery hardening. Now,
but there's
a
one
couple of them are very, very rare.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, the rare one.
One of them is rare and fucking deadly as hell.
That's what my great grandfather had, and he lived to be 82 years old.
One of them is very common and is fucking deadly as hell. And then two of them are not so fucking deadly, but one of them's rare and one of them's not.
He had the rare one, and he lived to be 82. And this was back in 62 when he passed.
That can causate a stroke.
Huh?
That can go as far as causating a stroke, the hardening of the arteries.
And he literally chewed this much tobacco a day, as big as my forearm and wide around.
Damn, son. Now that's a little overkill right there. No wonder his arteries are hard. It's because they were constantly being stimulated by the nicotine. Nicotine stimulates your arteries. It makes it so that your arteries are stimulated, and it dilates your veins, so it compresses your veins. It can actually push your blood pressure up, But at the same moment, because your blood pressure is up, it's actually got a sucking kind of effect when we're talking about that aneurysm, right? Just in case people were wondering how that works.
But what makes some people, when they don't have nicotine, it makes their skin starts to itch.
I've been through that myself.
And like lights get dimmer.
Yes, sir.
Is that like people that are more addicted to nicotine, or?
I think that has more to do. You know what? I can't take apart the two because I have hypertension. All right. When I get too stressed out, and I mean beyond too stressed out, my body goes into overdrive and my brain goes into training. But just at a certain point, it can cause. If I come back from that, that can cause me to have a heart attack. It's the strangest fucking shit I've ever seen. Basically, if I'm maxed out and then I go beyond, it's not a problem. But if I'm maxed out and then I just, temper back a little bit, it'll cause me to have a heart attack followed by another heart attack. Trippiest
I'm
shit
one
I've
of
ever
those.
seen.
I've tried vaping. I'm one of those kind of people. I couldn't vape, or I'd burn the sucker up within about 30 minutes. My friends, and you're not supposed to hit it like it's a lollipop.
Oh, Mom. I'm sorry.
But what
I,
makes some people have such incredible tolerance to nicotine like that?
well, nicotine does have a lot of different uses and a lot of different effects.
When they say 50 milligrams can kill a person.
Yes, it can. You realize that with a cigarette, when I smoke a cigarette, mind you, I'm taking in about between 2 and 4 milligrams of nicotine. That ain't much, but it's
No, it's
enough to be
not.
treatment wise.
What about Camel filterless cigarettes?
These are filterless. I just rolled that up in front of you, brother.
Oh, are those stronger than Camels without the filter?
Not necessarily stronger, better tasting though.
How much nicotine would Camels had back in the 70s? Less or more?
More because they would spray their product. Okay, and this is at the time, mind you. This ain't now. They don't do this now. It's a little bit different now. They don't spray their product with nicotine, but back in the day, they would take nicotine from alternative sources and they would spray their product with nicotine in order to give you more of a buzz off the cigarette. And that's because tobacco has such a low concentration of nicotine to begin with. I mean, it's a little bit more when it's green, enough to make you sick, but it's not so much that it'd be deadly unless you sat there and ate tobacco like fucking crazy, like you're eating tomatoes. Tomatoes and salt as you're eating tobacco. That would make you sicker than a dog and probably kill you.
So how much would 4 packs of Camels back in the 70s would have had in them total?
Enough to make you have a really bad tension in your neck and give all of your joints soreness when you don't have it there. Because 4 packs of cigarettes would equate a full day of smoking. Trust me, I've done it. You have to, even if you chain smoke, you have to take a break every now and then, because otherwise your body it'll turn around and fucking fade on you. But
Then
even
how
if
did
you don't
somebody
chain
quit
smoke,
that cold turkey and not even crave them?
there is what's called the limitation theory. All right, and that is that your body hits an absolute limit that it can take in toxins, and it says no more or you will die.
So
And if the
basically,
person heeds that warning, then they live through it. If they don't heed that warning, it kills them right then and there.
so it's basically he was probably getting to the point of where it was done getting him,
Mm-hmm.
like shortness of breath. Well, what about waking up in night sweats? Could that
His
be from
body had
cigarettes or
accumulated
no?
so much in the toxin varieties that were specific to a cigarette or to nicotine, what have you, that his body turned around and said, "No more, or you're going to die." And he recognized it and he paid attention to it.
My
Whereas
late
some folks,
grandfather even said, he said it wasn't like I was just being short of breath. He said I was even waking up in the middle of the night sweating the bed plumb through.
mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, what?
Now, mind you, I've been there with cigarettes. I've been there. I was smoking about 3 packs a day, and I went on this for about 2 or 3 years, and it literally put me to a point where I didn't quit, but I knew I had to stop smoking so much or it was going to kill me just from the toxicity of the nicotine alone. Now, and that's what modern cigarettes, mind you. Now, nowadays, the human body is, I would say, de-evolved as far as toxins are concerned because, over the past several decades, we've gone through this, try to pull toxins out of the environment rather than put them in, sort of thing. And I would say that our not only our herd mentality, but our herd immunity has evolved to that. So, now if we took on like higher toxins, we would not be able to handle them as well. I mean, yeah, we could handle them to an extent. Some people would be able to handle them better than others, but depending on the toxin, depending on the situation, it would kill everybody.
Then how come some people say, well, they knew so and so and he never got addicted to it? I don't know if you, I don't really want to say it, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
All right, not getting addicted to nicotine. It is a
No,
rare phenomenon.
something more addicted than nicotine, even.
No, I'm gonna point out not having not having the ability to become addicted specifically to nicotine, because everything else it's not as rare, but when it comes down to nicotine, it is the most rare phenomenon of not being addicted to, because it's literally ingrained in your nerve tissue to receive nicotine. So because of the niacin receptor, which is your body's way of actually rebuilding protein. So when it comes to nicotine, almost everybody is susceptible to a nicotine addiction. That being said, the um, the fact that some people do not have a nicotine addiction, I would also postulate that they don't. Those are the same people that don't have any kind of problem whatsoever with eating meat, but they just don't often because there's no real desire to. I would say those are the same people.
I gotta go take my medicine real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back.
Take her up.
You didn't have to yell. Yeah. You didn't have to yell because I was on live stream.
No sweat on my end. You know me. I don't bother. I don't mind.
I wasn't coming up there and bothering you with WWE wrestling on.
Uh, Anywho, you're just for the finite time for now. Um, you got to remember, things we've been through in life, they inevitably make us stronger. And so your body evolves to it. So, over time, you're going to experience more, you're going to evolve to become stronger to it. But at the same time, there's only so much in the human genome that can be flopped around and fucked with in order to fix for new things that arrive. And so your body runs out of room. That's actually what aging, as far as I can tell from looking at the different large aspect science behind it, not necessarily the small finite detail, but the large aspect science behind it. I'm pardon me. I see that there's only so much that the human body can evolve for before we finally just, our bodies just say, fuck it, we can't deal with it anymore. Now, if you could somehow stack on to that and make it so it would be stronger in that respect, able to evolve more and have more that it could encode for, and more that it could evolve to. Well, okay, that works. That works. But as it stands, the throughout your life, beyond age itself, that's what your body has to deal with, and what it evolves to over time. So, anyways, I'm gonna bring you back, Kentucky. Give me a second. All right, there we go.
Okay, I'm back. Good thing you did mute me, because I thought I seen like a person walking towards me, but it's like like an outlining of a person, but it was like nobody was there.
Yeah, stood up too quick. Been there. You stood up too quick, brother. That's all. All the fluid flowed from the top of your head down, and it pulled all that from your brain and down into your spine, and that caused you to almost go into what I call a brownout, but it's basically almost a blackout where you would pass out, but your body's not letting you. So instead, you're responding to whatever physical stimuli your brain can still understand.
Out of all the tobacco products, which ones do you think people probably get blockage, like artery blockage, from the most?
Cigarettes,
Which one comes in there causing most of the strokes? That or this?
strokes, again, cigarettes. Um, and
Well,
mind you, I don't think that it actually that the cause is the cigarettes. I think that that's the body finally giving up. All right, you got to remember, you're putting poison in your system. You're putting poison in your body. That's what's tobacco, nicotine is poison. And that's what your body responds to it as. All right, it doesn't matter if it's addictive or not. It is poison to your body. Now, that being said, it has its therapeutic uses. Okay. That's why I keep on coming back to that. It's not necessarily bad for you, but it's not good for you. Okay.
just
It
like
can be
Big Macs, they're
helpful.
not good for you, but
Right. It can be helpful in the correct amounts. Over that, it's deadly. Under that, it's useless.
just like I think I read in an article, if I ain't mistaken, that said nicotine can actually boost testosterone.
Yes, sir. I've experienced that myself.
It may have been a ghost. Considering I only lived maybe not even a mile away from a cemetery.
Over on the live stream.
I wonder what the oldest person is that ever had open heart surgery.
My granddad was 100, or my great granddad, sorry, on my mama's side, was 104 when he had a quadruple bypass surgery. So I don't know about the oldest, but I do know that that's pretty fucking up there.
That's older than my granddaddy was. He was 80, but lived another 13 years to the day almost. Plus grew tobacco 4 more years out of those. And how I would describe it, after he quit growing tobacco, that's when he finally started, to me, like he had what you would call Nicky withdrawals.
Mm. Yeah, flipping a Nicky makes you agitated.
And like all he wanted to do was sleep.
Yep. All you want to do is sleep or get angry. And I know the feeling, mind you.
Now I know they said he had adrenal gland issues, but still, as much as he slept, I don't think it was altogether adrenal gland issues.
Well, adrenal fatigue syndrome will do that to you.
Because I've seen him go to sleep while playing solitary.
Yeah, no, mind you, narcolepsy is known to be a symptom of adrenal fatigue syndrome. Say, like if you drink too much
What
coffee
about
too often.
epilepsy? Is that a sign of it too?
Not necessarily adrenal fatigue as so much as what's called adrenopapillary.
Okay.
Adrenopapillary is a lot more difficult to really put out there because let me point out, it's not really it's not as closely studied as like adrenal fatigue syndrome. Adrenal papillary syndrome is where your body, your adrenal glands surge and they create too much adrenaline for your body to withstand. And so one of two things happens. Either you have a seizure, which I go as far as to say is like, stress seizures. And then the other one is that you have severe rage syndrome, a severe rage issue, and like you see red, you just don't fucking see nothing else. And I would postulate that that is more of a more that on the level of chemical issue, according to physiology, than most people are willing to adhere to, and mostly because people who have uh, more so the stress seizures, not so much the epileptic, grand mal, but a stress seizure, which is like you could have your your quad on your thigh start just twitching like crazy, or you start getting twitch in your eye.
Or like your
Um,
neck going like this.
yeah, like you get a like you get a neck muscle that just tensions up and won't fucking let go. Cramp. Most people who experience that end up dying from a fatal heart attack or a stroke.
Just see,
I,
here's how I was doing one day, and my friend seen it, and he started laughing. My cousin's like, She's like, she was dating him at the time. She's like, a lot of the men in our family, especially, does that, and a lot of the men in our family, they either die from a stroke or a heart attack.
well, it's pretty much the same with my family, unless they die of drinking to themselves to death first, um, like my daddy did. Uh,
But the thing is,
but
my granddaddy drank like a fish. And there's two things you get from drinking that it can do to your liver. You know what I'm talking about? The cirrhosis and the other one. The other one's not as common as cirrhosis.
cirrhosis and apoptosis.
Yeah, where it's basically like eating too much fatty food. And that's what they
Yeah.
told my cousin and my granddaddy and me too. And he's like, you don't get that from drinking. I'm like, yeah, you can, but it's not that common. But I'm like, the other one's more reversible than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept on trying to argue with me.
Well, apoptosis normally rears its ugly head as symptoms of hypoglycemic responses and having um, adrenal overwork syndrome, which is basically adrenal. Again, it's an apoptosis. It normally manifests itself in that it's that your body's producing too much.
Now I know
It's
you've
the
heard of
same
like
thing with hypoglycemia, where you're getting a pancreatic apoptosis, where it's producing too much insulin.
you ever heard of these ideology? The doctors that look into your eyes that can tell you what's wrong with your body. Some of them knows what they're talking about, but I'd say the biggest majority of them don't.
Optometry. One of those. Look, if you know what you're looking at 100% when it comes down to optometry, sometimes you can extrapolate further, but it's your eyeballs. Yes, they're intuitively tied to the rest of your body. However,
They looked in my granddaddy's eyes and they said, and they knew all this without them even having to tell them. They said you was a heavy drinker at one point in time.
well, sure. I mean, that does show up in the eyes. Okay.
You smoked like a
But,
chimney.
yeah, that shows up in the eyes.
They said almost
Anytime
all
that
your
you've got
family
like,
died with either a heart attack or stroke, and you had
anytime
to
you've got
triple
liver
bypass.
issues, anytime you've got circulatory issues, those will show up in your eyes. But if we're talking like somebody's got psychological issues, that doesn't show up in your eyes so much as it shows up in your expression.
But he knew about his adrenaline gland.
Yeah.
But he looked in
So that
mine, and he
because
could tell me without me even saying it. He said, "You got seizures."
well, let me put it this way. Last time I saw an eye doctor, they were astonished by what they saw because basically they'd only seen what they saw in my eyes in boxers, and specifically a specific boxer who had hypertension.
Do I even want to know which one?
uh, Holyfield.
Mm.
But
Where you was laughing like that, I thought it might be Mike Tyson or Muhammad
no,
Ali.
no, Holyfield, and it was because of the fact that the strike he took off of Ali that folded his orbital bone, that they saw the exact same thing in my eye, which is what's called retinascleral dissimulation, or yeah, the dissimulation. Retinascleral dissimulation is where the nerve endings on your eye and the back of your eye, where the actual end, the rods and cones attached to, separate, and there's this layer of scar tissue in between them, so you don't have the reflectivity of the back of your eye, so you can't see what you would normally be able to see in dim light.
What do you think about them people that read people's palms and all that?
I don't know about all that. What I do know is that I cannot see in the dark after a bright light is shown around through my left eye. My right eye, I can kind of see through the dark, in the dark through that, but
See,
not
I got
as
and I
good.
got Dwayne detraction.
Yeah, well, I've got delayed retraction too, but that's more to do with head trauma than that has to do with things like
So
and
with
it's
that being
because of
said, the
the
Dwayne detraction, if I didn't have epilepsy already, I guess if I had a driver's license, it would already be restricted, wouldn't it?
yeah the restricted dilation where your eyes are slow to close under high intensity light causes astigmatism. And
No, I got the one. If you look, the Dwayne detraction where the eye don't turn all the way.
oh, I thought you were talking about restricted dilation. Uh,
And when
windage
I have
detraction.
tried to drive, what I notice is the easiest thing for me to drive, as far as a vehicle, is a pickup truck.
Well, that has a lot to do with the handling of a pickup truck and the fact you're driving a vehicle which has basically got a parachute on its ass. Yeah, you can feel everything. Um, windage detraction makes it so that you can't, you can't see out of the corner of your eye as quickly as somebody else can. I don't have windage detraction, which is really, it's obscure, but it's not impossible. I want to make that clear. I've known people who have had windage contraction and had windage contraction so severe that one of their eyes looked off over that direction, and then one of their eyes could actually look straight forward and look around and whatnot. But the one was just stuck. And so, in
I've
order to
been
get the
called.
guy, in order for the guy to see you, he'd have to turn his head to actually see you and understand what's all there.
I've even been called cross-eyed.
It does happen, and it's not something I would ever want for specifically with what I do. I mean, I'm glad I don't have windage retraction. I have the problem where I have restricted dilation because of the scleral separation. I have that windage dilation retraction, which is that my eyes don't close fast enough in order to keep them from being damaged by bright lights. Uh, what would normally be considered eye safe bright lights at night.
And I think that's part of why I can't keep a woman. They start looking at my picture and they start thinking, do I really want this guy?
All I know is that I've kept my driver's license without a fight because of the fact that I don't often get into car accidents, and when I do, it's specifically because of nature was involved and there was nothing that anyone could humanly do. And
And
that's
it's like, and
proved
it's like
out
my buddy
by,
said. He said, we live in a small farm town. He said, if you want to get a modes of transportation that's road legal, but you don't have to have a license, he said, save you up about $4,000 to $6,000. He said, of course, you could only drive it when it's warm weather, but he said, go buy you a tractor.
well, there's a tractor, um, and there's also, a lot of folks don't know this, but you can ride yourself a 50cc and under motor scooter
Yeah, but I
without
don't
a
know if I'd
license.
be what the word is what a scooter is. I don't know if I'd have good enough
Well, for the
balance.
for the most part, around all of the 50 states, you can do that without a license because they specifically cannot get on freeways, just like with a tractor. Any motor that can't get on a freeway, you can legally ride or drive that vehicle without a license. And mind you, it's specific to that particular. It has to be. My phone is dead, y'all. So just if, in case you're wondering, I'm probably going to end up having to call it a night here, all of a sudden, like because yeah, my computer decided that it doesn't like side, and it dropped my power all the way down to 1%.
No,
So
good night.
closed out as many apps as I can, but if I cut out, hey, I tried.
I'm starting to think that God wanted me to be single or something in this universe, whether it's God or the universe or something.
Whatever the case may be, it's just pretty much a similar with me.
I had a woman that said she was madly in love with me, and now she said I was obsessed with her. Well, which
Well,
was it?
obsession is a dangerous thing.
And I mean, it seemed like she was obsessed with me too. That's why I said, which was it?
It,
Or is she just saying that now where she's got a different guy because she don't want to make that guy mad?
possible.
Which I can understand that guy's in construction. You asked me to build something for you, it'd probably come crumbling down.
You asked me to build something for you. It's going to stay there for a while. There's one thing could be said about my work. You know, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, when everything's finished, you could hit that fucker with a twister. It probably won't come. It probably won't come down.
I mean, I know how to build stuff, but I guess where I got epilepsy, I ain't got no business on a ladder, is what I was getting at.
Ah, yeah. No, me, I don't have that issue. So, like I says,
Because I could probably build you a house if you would let me. Somebody like they built in the early 1900s or 1800s.
well, yeah, the knowledge is there for those who want to learn. It's just a matter of application. And I learned that from an old man down in the fucking desert. God bless his soul. Uh, he told me about, when it comes down to it, he taught me how to make brick. And he said, he didn't know much, but he knew bricklaying. And he says, it doesn't matter what you do in life. long as you do it with flair and you do it well. And everything else can go by the wayside because there will be a niche for you as long as you can do it well and with flair.
It's just like my buddy from high school said. He said, "What's your main objective, anyways, to do with your YouTube channel? Is it to make it like a lifelong career, a hobby, or a career, or what? Is it a hobby and a career, but not a lifelong one?"
Well, sure to fuck hell ain't the lifeline. We all know that one. Shit, any YouTuber knows this ain't no fucking lifeline. Are you kidding me?
And that's what I told
There
him.
ain't no way I'm making money off of this. There ain't no way I'm fucking doing nothing with this except for just expressing myself. So how you doing?
That's what I told him. I said, if this was a lifeline, I said, it's some of the videos I've got on YouTube ought to be right up there with some of these people that's got millions and billions of subscribers.
Uh-huh.
He said, there you go talking like a crazy country boy again. I said, no, I said, not really when you look at it.
No, there's some really good YouTubers out there that you look at. I mean, not necessarily all the editing or what have you. Okay, I'm just talking about they're good at what they do, and they got maybe what 400, 500 subscribers at best. It ain't nothing like it's special. I'm just saying these people are really fucking good at whatever they're doing. It's just a matter of that ain't what gets the views. It don't matter. Just as long as, like I says, what you do is you do good, you do it well, you do it with flair. People are gonna come. You build it, they will come, sort of thing.
See, I've had my cousin, I had a friend to help me with some of my videos. Like I've got a Bull of the Woods short, a Levi Garrett short. There's a Levi Garrett commercial, a Beach Nut commercial, and none of them are over 100 views. But what gets me my views are usually the ones to me reacting to people doing silly stuff or politics.
Yeah, politics, many bloodsuckers. Yeah,
Now, politics is kind of like the tobacco plant. A tobacco worm can chew a whole leaf in a day. And while we're on that topic, I've seen old farmhouses, you know what they'd use for support beams underneath the floor? Field rock. Not brick, not like masonry stone, but like a stone you would dig up out of the field somewhere.
good foundation makes a good home.
My great grandmother's old farmhouse, the chimney to it was nothing but field rock. And it had a seat in one part of it upstairs. It had a cedar ceiling, or that pine ceiling, where people out in California is paying 500, $600, $1,000 to just get it for art now.
Yeah, places like up here, as long as you got a place you can do it, you can go out, you can fucking pick out a log and build your own freaking log cabin from it. As long as you got the property to do it on.
That's what people don't realize. You could build a house way cheaper than what you're told. You just got to
Yep.
know what to do and how to get around it.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure you've seen tobacco sticks before. Odor that you can tell just by looking at them and how wide and the whiff when they was made. Pre 1900s are basically a one by one.
Well, I've had my fair level of working in construction, so when it comes down to, stick building, or it comes down to log cabin, or it comes down to stilt line, tree houses, what bench you? I can't go. Fucking shed in the woods, I can do that.
I've even heard my stepdaddy say his grandpa had a tobacco barn. It wasn't but one tier high in it. Or two tier. No, one tier. And you didn't have to climb up a tier to house it. But it was as long as the day is. Heck yeah. Wine's also good for the heart. Yeah. Talk to you later.
I do apologize. Um, my phone had the yips, and decided that it was going to end the stream early. So, y'all folks, do be inclined to go and loot around, says hi to your friends and whatnot, who are on live streams and whatnot. The Freedom Forum is closing out here. I have been your host, Yo Guardsman, man. Motherfuckers, I'm out. Y'all let my phone charge. Y'all have a good day, good night, or whatever. And remember, it's just a fucking shadow. Okay? It's just a fucking shadow. Operate accordingly. Have a nice day.